Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us here. I'm guessing for most of you it's still morning. Maybe there's an exception or two on the call. Have a nice opportunity here where we want this to be a bit interactive. So before we get going, wanted to make sure that you know if you have questions at all as we go through this, you can either type those questions in, you might be able to see how to do that, or if you can identify the place where you can raise your hand, we'll catch you and we'll try to let you speak if we can pull that off and if your system's working and ours is as well. But again, you can also type in those questions. So what we have for us here for the next little bit is an opportunity for Dr. Bert Moore, our liaison to state liaison that many of you already know, lay out the current status of our various programs that are guided towards our state associations, give you some of those specifics. Some of you are probably newer in this process than others, so it's going to give you an opportunity to learn a little bit more. We'll go through some of the demographics of how this is used by some different states and give us an opportunity to all learn. We'll also talk briefly about the SIM specialist crew, the contract reps that are across the country. We'll talk about those briefly to put a name to a face if you don't know those folks. And so if you have any commentary as we go through, do not hesitate. My name is Chip Kemp. For those of you who I don't know, that's my loss. Hopefully we can correct that in the near future, maybe at a fall focus or something of that nature. But I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Moore. For those of you who don't know Dr. Moore's background, a long-time academic at North Dakota State University, had a tenure at running an actual breed association and working with folks across the country. So he has a unique understanding and empathy for this dynamic and how we get this done. For the last number of years, he has served both as a SIM specialist, so he attends a lot of events for American Simmental, and so a lot of you see him there, but also has coordinated our efforts primarily through our Checkoff and our cost share programs. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Moore and let him lay the groundwork. And again, if you have any questions, we'll be monitoring those as we go through.
Well, thank you, Chip, and we do appreciate you folks who've tuned in. Hopefully it'll be on the informative nature to just pass you through some of these things that are going on as far as state associations are concerned. So you can, I guess, Chip, I guess January 6th, 2022, that's our date. And if we'll just move on, basically we have actually 33 state and regional associations. And also this represents 78,080 registrations in the American Simmental Association during the fiscal year of 2021. We have registrations in every state except Alaska, Hawaii, and of course Washington, D.C. But we also have members in across the globe as well: Canada, Panama, Australia, Mexico, New Zealand, and Guatemala. So membership is quite wide. This represents the logos of some of the states, the majority of the state associations as well. And some of them obviously are more active than others, but there are a significant number of them. So our best efforts are always made to try and maintain contact with them, and so I think that that's hopefully been happening. Okay. Oftentimes you might have the question, sure would be nice if we could have someone from the ASA here for our event. And as we look at that comment, why the question arises, well, how do we get this done? Basically, how can you arrange to have a SIM specialist at your next state-sponsored Simmental event? Each year, each state is allocated 2 visits by a SIM specialist, and one of them must be of a commercial event. And so we do have this in force, and we want state associations to take advantage of it. As we take a look at this, why there are a few people around the country, and just to quickly run around clockwise here and tell you where people are from, starting in the lower left-hand corner, he is from Nebraska. Moving up, the next person is from Montana. Colorado, up in the far left-hand corner, he's from North Dakota. Ben is from Texas. Michael is from Kansas. Russ is from North Dakota. Luke resides in Texas. Chip is in Missouri. Susan's in Colorado. Bill is in Minnesota. I'm located there in that corner, and I now live in Iowa, and below me is Brian, who lives in Indiana, and Gary in South Carolina. So this is an array of them. An additional presence can be, but I say we do have one per year with a second for a commercial event. Additional presence can be used using some of the cost share monies. And we have several contact informations as well. So Chip will elaborate on this a bit more as we move to the end of this. And so we just want to make you aware. I think there are a couple pictures I wasn't able to locate, and so there are a couple others I think that are not present here, but they do represent quite a wide array across the country. From the very beginning, I think it's fair to say that the ASA has consistently been a strong supporter of state associations, and early on, why they sponsored booths at conventions and workshops and literature. And I think a good deal of credit needs to go to, the picture of the gentleman there, Don Vanneman, who was the first secretary of the ASA. And he instilled the fact that he thought state associations were important to accomplish the mission of the National Association. So I just like to recognize him as kind of being an obvious innovator as far as breed associations are concerned. Okay, what programs do we currently have available for state associations? First one I'll visit about is the Cooperative Advertising and Cost Sharing Program. This was initiated in 1979, so it's been ongoing. And because of the fact that states and regions of the country are quite diverse, why they have different ideas and areas that do need different kinds of promotions. And those states do, in fact, know what their needs are best, we feel. And so consequently, this is directed toward them. Say that's just what it is. Cost sharing some of the monies that are available from the National Association with the state associations. Some of the objectives of them, first of all, I think one could say that they just want to share the Simmental message. As we continue on in our programs, by being able to identify these objectives, why that's important. And you can move on, Chip, and to the next. Okay, this regional funding obviously is important. Likewise, the next point I think is that we want to assist the states as far as their educational outreach is concerned. Likewise, we also want to promote highlight the message and the philosophy and the programs of the American Simmental Association. And you'll see a number of logos coming across next, and these just represent some of the really important programs, and highlighting those programs, the philosophy, and what the objectives of the American Simmental Association, that's what these represent. And they are numerous, they're ongoing, they're very viable kinds of programs. And we hope that they will be implemented to a good degree as far as our state associations are concerned. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about this cooperative advertising and cost sharing, but the National Association has very generously offered the fact that they will provide $4,000 per fiscal year in available funds for the state associations to use. This is, of course, done in a cost-sharing method. The majority of the funds that have been used over the years have been used for media with both print and broadcast. And one of the more common media outlets that has been utilized are the state and regional ag or cattleman's magazine, the Carolina Cattleman down in the southeast. Likewise, display booths are available to be cost shared with, again, mailing labels, website maintenance, web ads, and e-blasts, and these are taking precedent over some of the more print forms as well. Also, breeders' directories and newsletters are there can be assistance with funding for those kinds of things that are obviously important promotional items as well. So those are just examples of a few of them. We do have stipulations in them depending on, just what the limits are, and there are some limits on some of them, but generally the national associations will reimburse either from 60 to 70% to the state associations. The general guidelines of these cost share programs are, first of all, excuse me, they must go through the state association officer and be state association sponsored. And so basically what a state association does is they will pay an upfront initial advertising as well. Then if it is in print media and such, why the tear sheet and paid invoice is sent to the ASA for reimbursement, and that is the email that's available to send these off to the association. At least 50% of the content of the each of these needs to be of generic content, the exception being of course with the register and SimTalk, but that's a general guideline that 50% must be of genetic nature. We know that they have some excellent designed ads. Stand Strong Simmental has been one that's been promoted quite extensively as well, but there are a lot of ads that have that statement on it as well. A state association can actually design their own ads if they find ones that they prefer, that they can generate themselves. One of the things is that if they generate their own labs, why we do like to have a pre-approval on them to see that they fit the guidelines that have been designed. And most specifically, why any kind of an advertisement, no sale animals or individual consigners can be specifically identified, and they do not support prizes and trophies and that nature of things as well. Here's just a couple of examples of ads, and I've put up there at the top the membership. They're located at membership, state associations, and cost share ad downloads. And you'll notice that these are full page ads, and of course the Simmental message is up top, but the other message that can be more specific to the state associations to incorporate these into their promotional programs as well. The other general guidelines is that we can also, these funds can also be used for inserts or paid editorials. Sometimes some magazines actually solicit paid editorials or inserts as well, but again, these are required to be 50% generic. In other words, just essentially take care of the appropriateness for the Simmental Association. Website maintenance, that's another item that you know, a good share of the state associations utilize some of their funds for. Obviously, they need to be linked to the ASA website. And I think I even mentioned before that web advertising, that has become considerably more prevalent as well. There used to be a limit about the web advertising, but that's been removed because of the more extensive use of it over time here. And again, the same 50% generic requirement there as well. Some states put out directories, some put out newsletters, and there is a $1,500 limit that is limited to printing only on these directories and newsletters. The ASA will not subsidize the postage, but interestingly enough, newsletters that are being published most often are distributed via email, and so that take care of some of the postage situation as well. So these are just some of the guidelines, along with the fact that at your local cattlemen's convention, why many of states actually will have booths. They distribute literature. They oftentimes will have personnel there from the state to answer questions and such. But again, booths still have that 50% generic requirement if they're going to receive this reimbursement from cost share.
Dr. Moore, this
Yes.
is Chip. Since we're in the moment, and I have a question that's came across, and the question from one of the attendees is, who pre-approves those custom ads? And I should have caught you in the last slide, and I apologize.
Okay, I guess you know, some of them have come to me, and we usually confer on them. And I know that oftentimes you've had the final word on a few of them, Chip. So it's not a complicated process, but you know, we do like to have that pre-approval. So.
And we would encourage, just to be specific, we would encourage you to contact Dr. Moore to go through that process. And if he wants some other colleague input, so be it. But for the most part, he'll be your portal. He'll be your gateway to decide that.
Okay, thanks, Chip. A few years ago, you know, an encouragement was offered to some of these state associations, and there are some that are extremely active, and it was thought that they could sufficiently utilize you know, additional funding in addition to the initial $4,000 that can go to each state association. But these associations that used all of the $4,000 in cost share monies would actually qualify for an additional $1,000 to be used in the next fiscal year. And so some of them have taken very good advantage of these. So when you put together the $4,000 plus the additional ones for qualifying, why, you know that it's a pretty good amount of promotional monies that can be invested in these programs. So. Okay, continuing on, why we do have you know, these cost share ads, and I maybe got this a little out of sequence, but they do have full and half page ads, again with this statement here that was developed by the Graham Company, and there are a lot of stock photos that are available, of course, on the website. And if a person chooses to create their own ads and so on, why these stock photos are very good examples of ones that can be used in development of their own ads as well. Just to give you an idea of where we're at, why you check the ASA website, why you see memberships, state associations, and this is what will come up. And this is a detailed document about the guidelines that are necessary to get into the cost share program. So that's available on the ASA website. And obviously a lot of people know that and refer to that as well. Likewise, they can be supplied with promotional materials in terms of literature. Overrun copies of SimTalks are probably one of the more popular ones that is utilized, and all of the Sim specialists all have good supplies of current editions of the SimTalk, and if they go to different events, why those are frequently passed out as well. There are about 5 sale barns within 75 miles of where I live, at least 5, and I just carry a whole batch of these with me, and whenever I drive past a sale barn, I drop some promotional literature off. It's kind of a convenient way to get the Simmental message out there as well. But any of these promotional items can be received from the association. Just to give a little bit of background in terms of how this program is used, why I did go through and pull out what the registrations in each state was and how much cost share monies each one of these states did in fact use. And I realized that the slide is fairly small, and so I'll just leave it there for a little while and allow you to take a look at it, see where your state maybe ranks as far as registration numbers, and also how the state association has used some of the cost share monies. But if we can just leave it there for just a little bit, why you can look through as well. You'll notice over
Dr. Moore.
Yes.
While they're studying those things, I have another question that's come across, and it might be a good opportunity for them to study those numbers while you ponder this question. The question was, if an association were to want to put one of the generic ads that we approve in a state sale catalog, can they get reimbursed for printing that catalog?
I think it would just have to be I don't think they could cover the entire catalog. I think it would just be a portion of the catalog. That would be my take on this. And if you have a better idea on that, Chip, why I would be glad to have you voice that as well.
I would agree with you.
But I don't think it would be appropriate to have an entire catalog printed, just because they do in fact carry one ad. So, but certainly that's I think it would certainly be a good thing to have in a catalog. So some kind of an ad, that it promotes some of the generic aspects of Simmentals as well. You'll notice that there are some states in there that have been qualified for the additional $1,000 and have used it all up as well. There are, a few states that basically are not nearly as numerous as far as their registrations are concerned, but still have gone ahead and done some very effective promotional items as well. Okay, this now is a 3-year summary of the cost share expenditures as well. And whenever we look at any kind of situation like this, where we're looking at a series of 3 years, particularly over the last 3 years, I think that the obvious thing that comes into mind is the COVID situation. And whether or not you can identify any kind of trends or not, I think it's maybe questionable, because obviously we're not even back to what they want to refer to as new normal anyway. But again, I do have the registrations across there for the past. These are fiscal year registrations. They would be a little bit different than the ones that Sheldon may have shown you if you were on some of those meetings, because those are reported on a calendar year, but these are on a fiscal year. And since our programs funding wise operate on a fiscal year, well, I think those are the ones that represent things best as well. You'll notice what the registration trends are across the board there. And we were pretty enthused about the amount of cost share payments that were paid out in previous years and anyway, but we do see that there's a significant decline there as we look at the 2021 fiscal year as well. There is also a decline in the states that actually participated in the cost share expenditures. And obviously this is unfortunate, but I think it's just represents a fact of life because of what we've gone through in terms of this COVID thing. So I don't know whether you have any thoughts on this, Chip, but I'd sure welcome your input if you have any ideas, about this as well.
Well, I actually would like to ask a question to those in attendance, and maybe as we go through the rest of your discussion, maybe ask them to be thinking about this. Do they have potential ideas why the decline in 2021? Was it just a one-off that's a little bit difficult to interpret? And as you state, that's clearly possible. Or are there some other things that are impacting them at the state level? And certainly we can speculate, Bert and I can speculate on what those might be, but I think it'd be healthier if we heard you all. So I would just ask as we go through this, if there were particular things that you think might have affected your particular state and its eagerness to spend in the last fiscal, you might be thinking about that and seeing if you could share that with us. Actually, had a couple of folks raise their hand. I'm keen on allowing them to chime in if you are, Bert.
Yes, please, please.
So this is where I'm going to need Kathy's help. I'm going to see if I can pull this off because I'm not terribly good at these things. I'm going to pick the first name that I saw. And Jeannie, I thought I may have given you the opportunity to speak. Jeannie, can you hear me?
Okay, Chad, Chip, who needs to talk?
Jeannie, where'd she go? I don't know what happened. Miss White had, oh, there she is. She had her hand up. Jeannie White had her hand up. Oh, I unmuted Jeannie. Now let's see. Oh, or maybe it got muted again. Now, Jeannie, can we hear you? I guess is the bigger question. You might be muted on your end, Kathy. Would that be an accurate assessment?
No, she looks like she's unmuted, should be able to speak.
Oh, hold on, I hit the screen, my apologies.
Maybe you could type your question, Jeannie? No.
Yep, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna try the next person to have their hand up and see if we can do it that way.
Yeah, I lumped Kath, my wife and I together.
At best, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome.
Oh, that's good. Well, I was actually typing in while while you were trying to get a hold of me. We had a booth at Farm Fest in Springfield, Missouri. We paid for the booth. Do we just send that reimbursement in to you, like as soon as it's paid for, or what's the actual date that the reimbursement, does the fiscal year run July 1 to June 30, or how does that work?
Yes, yeah, the fiscal year is July 1, to June 30th, right?
Okay.
And so, if it was done something like in September, which I think is when Farm Fest down in
It's in October. But,
October, okay. Yeah, so it would be submitted during, this would be, the fiscal year for 21-22. That's when that needs to be submitted, yes.
Okay, so we could submit that at any time, and that would go towards our allocation.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Ed. Forgive me for a moment, Bert. I think we had, let's see if I can bring Barry up. Barry, can you hear me? And more importantly, can we hear you? Yes, we can. Welcome.
Us Missouri people are being vocal today because Ed and I are both from Missouri.
Yeah, we like it. We like it. I say Missouri, so you can tell where I'm from.
Yep. Hey, I was just going to answer your question that one of the reasons I think that may have happened in Missouri, I don't know about other states, but when there's a turnover of officers and when there's a turnover of directors and that information doesn't get passed along in terms of what some of these programs are, that could be one reason why people aren't applying for that money.
You're absolutely right. I know that always poses some concerns when those kinds of things happen. What I sure try to do is to confer with those people as best I can and try to get them up to speed and so on. But sometimes I don't always get the notice that that has occurred. But I do know that that certainly that has occurred. Yes.
I did have one other question too.
Go ahead.
So to Ed's comment about Farm Fest, I believe we actually requested that somebody participate from the ASA. Eventually, I think we did get Greg Walthall, but I think the first answer was they didn't have anybody. So if nobody's available and that affects our cost share dollars, what's the solution for that if no one's available?
The only thing that I tell people is that it really takes an important amount of lead time in order to get somebody there as well. Because there are a few states that'll, even when they have their annual meeting, they'll make some decisions as when they would like a SIM specialist to be there. So, their schedules are, I think it has to do with scheduling more than anything else and just having sufficient lead time.
And this is Chip, Marion, and I would agree with Bert predominantly. I mean, there are quite a few of us involved in helping with these efforts. On the other hand, at times it may not be enough on rare occasion, and so that was probably one of those. Certainly kudos to Greg and all of our trustees at one time or another assist with some of those things. And so, yeah, probably the primary thing is let's talk as far in advance as we can and see if make sure we get out there in front of it a little bit. And we'll continue. Luke Bowman, who is not on this call, who's another colleague of Bert and I's and who handles the SIM specialist folks, has brought another person or two on in recent months. And hopefully that helps us avoid some of what you saw this last fall. So.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Bert, real quick, Jeannie White, who couldn't quite get through, she was kind enough to to send a reply. And as we might suspicion, at least in certain circumstances, in theirs, it was a bit of a COVID deal where the state was shut down. And so a venue where they spent some of their money, Empire Farm Days, did not happen. So I don't think that probably comes as a big surprise, and that's probably some of this drop off. So again, as more folks have thoughts or questions or specific responses on that throughout the call, don't hesitate to throw them at us. I'm going to go ahead and continue forward, Bert, if you're game. But I think those are all very constructive, and maybe we'll get some more as we plow ahead.
Yeah. Now I want to talk now about the Checkoff program, and it's a quarterly program. I put quarterly in red there because I try to make correspondence with people every quarter about this as well. But some people get these a little bit mixed up, but keep in mind that it is a separate and independent of the cost share program. And basically what it is each state association is allocated 25 cents per registration in that state, based on, as I say, on every registration within that state. It's available quarterly, and all that is necessary to be done is to have an electronic application to the ASA. And unfortunately, some states will actually wait until the end of the year, but I just really think that this is a good way to provide a little bit of cash flow to associations if they will, in fact, submit those requests on a quarterly basis as well. As I say, they just have to supply this, the ASA with the state association leadership contacts. So that's why we like to keep constant communication as well. Sometimes these, as we already talked about, these changes in leadership maybe don't get passed along as quickly and as appropriate as they should, but I do like to have the regular correspondence with each state association. And the other thing about these cost or Checkoff program monies is they can be used for any state association activity. And I think that if you click again, Chip, you'll see I've had this identified. This is free money. It doesn't take a great deal of effort, but it is money that's available based on registrations, and consequently, as I say, can be very, very useful as far as trying and provide some cash flow to these state associations. Okay. Again, this is the form that's will show up if you check into the website as well, requesting states and the quarter that would be ending, and just name the officers' names and addresses there, and then that on a fairly timely basis that then is sent to the state associations. Okay. I say again, same location on the ASA website, membership state associations as well. And we'll review this just a little bit also. Okay, the annual Checkoff Bonuses, and this is an incentive-based system that rewards state associations for breed promotion based on cattle registration numbers again. So it is tied to the numbers as well. And there are some bonus criteria incentives that states are encouraging to do. If they hold a booth at a state or regional event, why they can they qualify as a bonus incentive. If they host a field day of some nature, an AJSA event, a junior educational event, or host a classic, and if they do some promotion advertising using the cost share participation. And again, that obviously that's a little bit of double dipping right there. All you have to do is that's one of the incentives, is to make sure that you are involved in the cost share participation. A few of the other events that are additional as well, website promotion with generic promotion with the ASA link, mailings, SimGenetic promotions with the state association mailings. And there's another one if you do in fact host a PTP show, a progressive performance show, and ASA, it's an ASA recognized show as well. So those are the identifiers as far as the different bonus incentives. And this program was changed here just within the last couple years, but if a state does in fact complete one bonus criteria, why they will receive a 10-cent rate per registration bonus. If they do 3, it's 30. You can read through there. If they do 4, they'll get 50%. So in other words, the more of these bonus criteria a state association involves themselves with, why again, this ups the amount of bonus monies that can come into the state. So there's a total potential for bonus incentives of 80 cents per registration per state. And that coupled with the 25 cents per registration with the checkoff, why this can be $1 and 5 cents per registration for each state. And as I say, this program was revised just within the recent years, and always in mind that the more registrations there are, the more checkoff dollars there are available. The application for this is due at the end of the fiscal year and on June 30th. And there again is a submission form on the website that is very easy to work with as well. This is the Checkoff Pro or the Checkoff Bonus Program again on the website, and it's identifies, of course, the criteria there that are shown. You know, the booth, the field day, AJSA event, promotional advertising website, and different kinds of mailings. So, and then as the number of participation in numbers of different criteria increase, why the rate of the increase in the money that's paid out to the state associations. Okay. I wanted to put together a 3-year summary of the checkoff expenditures. And this again, basically is determined by registration numbers, and you can pull that across that particular 2-year summary or 3-year summary. Again, identify the numbers of registrations, and keeping in mind that checkoff dollar availability is dependent on registration numbers. And so,
Bert, can I have a question sitting here that's just spot on to the comment you just made. Can I ask this question to you?
sure.
Okay. Bear with me as I bring it back up. These are a little, I'm not as good as with this, but the question was essentially, how are registrations determined? Is this something that has to do with a split between adults and juniors, or is this just the overall registration number that comes from the ASA? Where's that number come from?
It's just registration numbers at the ASA. It's just cattle that are registered, period.
Thank you.
You'll notice again, you know, what the registration numbers were again here. And so, you know, by looking at that line that says checkoff available dollars, that would say that that would be any of those top figures multiplied by 25 cents. And so those figures represent what would be available to all the state associations, and if in fact they applied for all of them. The checkoff dollars paid out, that amount, as far as a percentage of those dollars that have been paid out, has in fact did decline. And this is in part by, at least one state that, quite frankly, left $1,300 on the table simply because they didn't make application for it. And so this is why we encourage all the states, and quite a few of them, most of the states do in fact participate, because it represents free money. Okay. And again, you take a look at the website there. You just, go up here to, membership. The drop down will go to you to state associations. You click on state associations, and this is what will come up. And basically the ones that we're kind of talking about are those that are on the next drop down there as well. So this is what it looks like when you pull up the website and take a look at those. So you can download ads, you can look at cost share guidelines, you can look at the bonus program, checkoff dollars. Any of those things are present there on the website. So that's another item that I think is appropriate to bring forward as well, that all state associations are encouraged to submit pictures and information of their activities. I constantly get reminders from people that work at the pub or at the publication portion of it and say, hey, what are the state associations doing? And it's the simplest process that could be, as you click on publications up there, what'll drop down then is basically, contact ASA pub staff. You click on that one, and what'll come up is register at simgene.com. And pictures, articles, they can all be submitted this way. And I get constant reminders say, what are the state associations doing? I mean, they'll take any kind of pictures and such, and we sure want to encourage all state associations to let all the rest of us know what's going on in your state as well. So I think this is an important item that state associations can accomplish by, publicizing basically what's going on in their state as well. Okay, this can include such things as pictures and so on as well. The next one I just threw up there simply because it's just a comment I think that I would make, is that the most active state associations often have a go-to person who handles many of the association functions. And it's clear at the top of the list, there's Susan Russell from Colorado. I mean, they're the ones that will always have everything. They'll utilize every possible cost share dollar that they receive. Some of these people have been there for an extended period of time. A few of them have been there for a short period of time. I know Jeannie White's on this call, and I appreciate the correspondence we've been able to have. And there aren't a lot of registrations in New York, and yet I commend you on the amount of promotion that state does as well. You'll notice that the states are the most generally most active are those that have the largest number of registrations, and that is appropriate. But these are some really good people that I really appreciate what they do as well. So if we just kind of run through these things quickly, again, I think, state associations, you have the ability to take advantage of the SIM specialists, and Chip's going to elaborate a little bit more on that as well. Next thing is use those cost share program to support your promotional efforts, because when you only have to pay 40% of the promotional costs, why This makes a pretty robust kind of a promotional program that can be developed with the kind of support that the ASA does provide to state associations. The checkoff funds are basically free money. Not applying for them is, you're just missing out on some important funds. And likewise, the state association activities, if they expand those, why this will increase the checkoff bonus funding as well. And those two items, of course, are tied to numbers of registrations. And the final comment there is the report the state activities to the register, because they're very hungry to promote the activities. There's a special section in the register that is devoted to state associations. And so, get your pictures, and if you even have articles and things of that nature, why submit them, and they're glad to have them. So these are programs that are all available, and we want to use them, and we do appreciate the fact that you've taken the time to actually spend this time with us and generate some interest. Hopefully this will generate some more interest in your own state association. Chip, if you have some additional items to, go ahead and cover those, and if we have questions here at the end as well, we look forward to those as well.
Tremendous. And I'm going to very briefly talk about the specialists, but before I do, again, kind of alluded to this at the very beginning of the call, and it's an appropriate time to mention it again. Dr. Moore has a robust level of experience on all spheres of how an association works. And so having him as essentially your ally and your liaison to make these things happen is quite valuable for you. We're blessed to have him on our team, but as blessed as we are, to be really frank, you're more fortunate because he's going to focus in, he's going to be straight with you, he's going to tell you where something's not going to apply or it's not going to work out. He's not going to spend an extended period of time of allowing you to go through the what if. He's going to be clear. He's going to identify how the rules do or do not apply in your situation. And those things just speed up the process for everybody and make this work. So clearly I have left his contact information up here for an extended period of time with the hopes that clearly you could capture that if you want. So anyway, thank you, Bert. We'll come back clearly if we have a couple of questions. I'm just going to quickly go through, like I said, ideally I would have another colleague on talking about the specialist program, but Luke's not available with us for the next little bit as he's en route to an event. And so, again, the terminology SIM specialist is the name, the affectionate term that we have for those highly trained folks who are throughout the country. We've already referenced a couple of them. Bert showed you all their pictures real quick. I just want to quickly remind that while Bert's told you specifically how state association, what you've got to do, you have those 2 days, one has to be commercial. But you're also constantly answering questions for some of your membership there within your state. And the reality is that almost anybody can qualify. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to have enough humans to meet every demand on occasion, as was highlighted earlier. So there are going to be times where, hey, it's a demanding weekend during maybe the fall sales season where there's some of those things kicking off, or clearly up in the early part of the fiscal or the early part of the calendar year that we're about to run into. We're getting heavy bull sales. Those stretches where it can be a little difficult to find a person for an event. But the qualifiers that have been laid forth by the trustees really allow almost anybody to have somebody on hand, whether it's through the amount of dollars you're doing business with the organization. You can out and out, again, buy a day, $500. If there's one available and you want to use that day to maybe bring in a specialist to help you go communicate with some of your major commercial clients that you're trying to help them take the next step in some of the processes that they have in place, or potentially you'd like somebody to come and give a talk at an event. There's an audience size qualifier. These things are, and the size does not have to be very big. The goal is to get our message out. And so I bring these up to you because while there are a few of us who are not specialists, myself, I'm not a specialist. Luke, he's not a specialist. Bert, he kind of blurs the lines a little bit because he wears a lot of hats. But some of us do help, whether it's Dr. Schaefer or myself or other full-time staffers, and we're tickled to do that. But I just want to dig in a little deeper. Here's the first half of the specialist. Again, you've got to hear from Bert, and he mentioned these folks to you. A couple of these individuals are a little newer. A number have been with us for quite a while. But you can see, if you just look at this half of them, they cover from nearly one end of the country on a diagonal to the other, and from north to south, just in this one group. And then if I add up the other half of them, again, we can catch another good segment of the country. These individuals, again, on this screen, 2 of these are pretty new. The other 4 have been in this role for a while. This is kind of the geography of the blue triangles are where we have a specialist located. And I think if you think about an overlay of where the bulk of the cattle are in the US, meaning where mostly, if you look at an aerial map, it's green, you'll see that we have a pretty good swath of that territory covered by some specialists. And again, this isn't necessarily counting staff when we participate in these things as well. Probably only one region that's a little challenging on occasion at present, and that'd be out in the far west, and we've built in some processes to handle those. And so now, if I back up, you can kind of see where all these folks are hanging out. And now when you think about the likes of Susan Russell, we can sing her praises for a long time, whether it's her experience as a trustee, her experience as a cattlewoman, her experience at the state association, her experience as a breeder, so many things that she can bring as a specialist. She's one who's been around for a long time, as is Wes Danielson's probably one of the most beloved specialists we have, and rightly so. Or Brian DeFries is a trustee. Gary Burns, a new one from down in the Southeast, who has a lot of time in the Clemson sphere down there, and so again has so much cred in that ballpark. Bill Zimmerman there in the white shirt, and you know Bill, he used to be the head of this program. Bill has a passion to tell the story of Simmental, and for those of you who have questions from time to time, maybe about full bloods or flexies, he's your man, he's your man. Or Jack Whittier, one of the most renowned reproductive physiologists in the country. Just so happens, like so many of these folks, I'm going to back up to this screen, like so many of these folks, they are experts in their fields, and they seek us out and want to work with us because they believe in the mission of what you all are doing, your membership is doing. Again, you know Dr. Dykeman there, again, his tenure as a renowned meat scientist at K-State, or Ben Spitzer. Ben would tell you he's probably a little more mature than his picture would allude to right there. A young father, by the way, and FYI, his cavities numbers aren't very good from what I'm told. Ben's just a genuine, humble dude who works really good in that southern region. Go up the top, Perry Thomas is just, again, another one of those very humble, genuine folks up in the Dakotas. Again, Dr. Moore, I won't belabor that other than to say he's somebody that is highly sought after in the Iowegians and Nebraska to keep him really, really busy during bowl time. Ashby Green there, kind of in the grayer picture, third up on the top. Ashby's our most recent addition. Ashby's, he is highly known in this business on a whole host of fronts. Ashby's based in Florida, and he's got his finger on the pulse of the Southeast, like very few humans will, and he's been just a tremendous addition. Has hit the ground running wide open. And of course, JP, many of you know Dr. Patterson, a longtime academic at the University of Missouri at Montana State, worked with Neogen, worked with NCBA, and these folks, like so many, JP would be one, chooses to do this. Almost none of these folks need to do it. They enjoy the opportunity to work with this audience and to work with these kind of people and to represent that kind of group. We'll give you a heads up. because it is important from your standpoint to know that when these folks come to you, they're constantly updating themselves. They're constantly trying to learn. And so I don't call when we get together with them training sessions, because if anybody's being trained, it's probably staff, more so than the specialists. I call it more of a retreat where we all get together, share ideas, get wiser, get smarter, tell some stories. And here, just a couple months ago, we had most of the specialists in Bozeman. That's actually sitting in the boardroom. You can see Dr. Schaefer there on the right, pondering deeply. And as we sat around that room, I was doing the math. Ladies and gentlemen, your field staff, your SIM specialists, just in this group, had over 500 years, and that's very, very conservative, by the way, over 500 years of legit beef industry experience. I would wager you could stack up all the experience from every other field staff in the country at a breed association, and it wouldn't touch what you've got in these folks. So I strongly encourage you to use them. Remarkably skilled, and I put a few pictures of your staff up from that same day to prove that it wasn't just a complete time to hang out. We went through some very deep material and learned from each other, and it was a treat. So with that, I'm going to be quiet for a moment, and again, extend it if there's any follow-up thoughts or questions that you all might have about how you can maximize your state's effectiveness through our programs, let us know. Otherwise, you can always reach out to Bert at that email address. I'm going to go back to you again, Bert, because I think it's
Okay.
really important that they know how to catch up with you. If you need the rest of us, of course, you can find our contacts on the website. Ed, I actually saw your comment. I will get that to you. I will get you the number you're looking for. So if you're still listening, I'll get that phone number coming your way. With that, I don't see any other questions at present. Bert, any follow-up comments before we sign off?
None other than the fact that, again, we appreciate you people who spent the time with us, and we hope it's been useful to you. But with my contact information up there, boy, just don't hesitate to call me as frequently as possible. I don't always get back immediately, but I certainly do enjoy. One of the really fun parts of kind of what I do is to getting the chance to talk to people all across the country. And you can always say, well, how's the weather? Because that's always a topic of conversation. But just getting the chance to visit and confer with people from all across the country, that's what makes a good share of this really fun. Well,
I actually have a question too that's popped up, and so you clearly prompted that, and that's awesome. First question, and I missed this one a little bit ago, and I apologize, Mark. The question from Mark Campbell was, Bert, do you by chance know for those states that seem to be the most effective at using the dollars, do you know they typically have a volunteer secretary, or do they have somebody who's compensated, or would you have reason to know?
Quite a few of them actually have people that are compensated for, what they do. I mean, I don't know the exact number or the list of them, but I do know that some of them get some kind of, salary, I guess one would say. So yes, they do. And oftentimes these are, these include some states that do have like state sponsored sales, and the association may, for sponsorship of a sale, get a percentage of the sale proceeds as well. So that's some of them.
Okay. Actually, I have another question, but bear with me, I'm struggling to identify. Doug, if you can hear me, I don't see your name listed. So you can do one or two things. You can help me identify who you are, or you can text me that question. We're going to buy a little time here because we have what no doubt is a very worthy question from one of our trustees. I actually have a couple comments while we're waiting for that. One, Dr. Moore mentioned about the web ads earlier, use of dollars from a digital standpoint. I would actually strongly encourage you, those of you who haven't looked into using some of your monies, cost share or otherwise, through some of the digital, in particular programmatic advertising. You may or may not know that terminology, but the simple way to think about it would be some of those ads who seem to follow you around the internet, and it seems a little peculiar why they seem to show up wherever you are. We can help you identify ways to utilize those sort of systems. It can be remarkably cheap, and if done well, tremendously effective. And so if you have questions about how to do some of that, please reach out. You can reach out to me personally. You can reach out, and Dr. Moore can guide you to either myself or to Kathy Schaefer, and we can give you some guidance on that. There are clearly other outfits that can do those kind of things well too, if you have a question on that, but it is tremendously powerful. Secondarily, my other comment, and this is a bit more big picture, from an association standpoint, we put a lot of dollars at play in terms of promoting Simmental in the best ways we know how. And if you had any reason to sit on any of the meetings over the last number of days, you might know that by essentially any metric, whether it's industry influence or growth of the association or numbers of registrations or numbers of members, upon any measure, there's just never been a better time than right now in the Simmental business. With that said, probably one area that we can get better at is knowing what are some of the local venues that actually handle effective advertising in your area. So if there are particular publications or even some media outlets that use audio or TV or those kind of things, don't hesitate to reach out and let us know some of those platforms that you think could be viable advertising places to check out. So please let us know. That's a request from me. Doug, can you hear me? I'm going to take that as a no. Kathy, if you're listening to me,
I'm here.
Doug Park is trying to make a comment, and I don't see him. I must be missing him.
Right, I believe he called in, but if he didn't put in, or he has to be on the computer in order to talk. Like you have to put in a PIN number.
Okay, so Doug, if you want to transfer that question to me, I'm happy to ask it for you. I apologize. There are lots of powerful things from these computers. There are some limitations. So I apologize. We're clearly having some miscommunication there. I think we've addressed all the other questions and comments. So with that, Bert, I'm going to go ahead and allow you to sign off, and we'll try to catch up with Doug independently. So.
Okay, again, I've said it before, but again, thank you. And my contact information is there. I would enjoy corresponding with you and finding out what maybe some specific needs you might have.
Thank you all very, very much, and welcome to the new year. We'll talk to you again soon. Thank you,
Yes.
Dr. Moore.
Happy New Year.